Good day, this is Bernard Levine, and I want to welcome you to the 10th annual BallenIsles Art Show. We have now moved from 70 artists up to almost 90, and we encourage you to come down and see the works of your fellow people at BallenIsles, and you can even check out one of my paintings as you look at the things. Once again, welcome and enjoy the art show. Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce you to our first artist of the day, Ellen Mertz. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Rhonda. How are you?
Thank you so much for participating again.
My pleasure.
Again, I say again because last year, if you remember, Ellen had a fabulous sculpture, and it was entitled, "Stop the World, I Want to Get Off." And I know you must remember that because it hasn't left my memory since then. And we were anxious to interview Ellen because she's famous for her quirky kinds of sculpture, and she always has a fabulous reason as to why she created a particular piece. And Ellen?
Well,
tell us about this lady.
This very voluptuous lady was a model in my art class. And I wasn't particularly excited by her body. I didn't think it was very interesting. There was nothing in particular about it that I wanted to do in terms of the whole frame, the whole body. But she had this wild head of hair, and which was just all over the place,
like
and
massive.
I thought it was fantastic. And she had these very large breasts, which I also thought were fantastic because it was clear to me that they were real. And there are so many beautiful women walking around with implants, and this one had these, well, they speak for themselves, I think. Anyway,
speak loud and clear.
I decided that I was going to make this all about the hair and the breasts. So when I started to sculpt her, I had the shoulders and I did the arms and I had her back, and I thought, no, that's not really very interesting. I think I could make it more interesting by just really focusing on exactly what caught my eye. So I cut away the arms and the shoulders, and I cut out the back and hollowed it out. And so, as you can see, no pun intended, what stands out is what I wanted to stand out. And she has a very pretty face if you can duck underneath and see it.
The features are beautiful.
But it's the hair and obviously the breasts that are going to hit you. And I had a lot of fun doing this.
How long did this piece take for you to create?
Oh, it probably took me about 6 weeks.
And did she model for the entire 6
she
weeks?
modeled, and she was a free spirit that was absolutely unbelievable, had no sense of modesty whatsoever,
inhibitions at all.
to the point that it was really embarrassing because this is a class with men and women, and she didn't even bother putting on a robe when she took a break.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was hard not to be staring like that at her. And I've named this sculpture Feel Free.
Perfect.
So if you
Just
come
perfect.
up to the club and you see this wonderful, fabulous art show that Bernie and Rita have chaired, it's the best one yet. But if you see her, feel free to come over and feel free.
Very good, Ellen. Very good. Yeah, her face really is remarkable. And it's a shame that the focus is not quite there.
Well,
but I understand why you did what you did.
Well, my favorite thing to do is faces. I love doing portraits, lifelike portraits, more than anything else.
Right.
But I was just captivated by what struck me as the main things about her that really stood out. And she had a very skinny, uninteresting body, except for what you see here.
Where was this created? Locally?
Locally, I went to the Armory in West Palm.
Okay, so was it interesting to you to see what the others in the class sculpted?
Yes, because there's
Was it very different than yours?
Totally different.
Totally.
Different, and that was the greatness of going to the Armory, because there are so many talented people there, and everybody does their own thing in their own style, and you can do it as realistically as you want, or really push the envelope and make it, you know, out of this world. I'm trying to get away from my realism a little bit and make things that are more interesting in that people would say, "What were you thinking?"
Well,
and so
that's it.
basically,
you are famous for that. What were you
well,
thinking?
and I hope to come up with something for next year's art show that will.
We're looking forward to
People will
it.
say to me, "What were you
did
thinking?"
it again. You did it again. Thank you so much, Ellen. This
Thank
is a
you. It
terrific
was such a
piece, and
pleasure.
keep
Thank
them
you.
coming.
I will, and thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Hi, I'd like to introduce you now to Steve Monheim, who's been a resident in BallenIsles for, what, about
This is our 4th year.
4th year. And is this the first year that you have participated in the show? Or
No, it's the second year.
The second year. You did it last year, too. Well, we're looking at a wonderful painting. The colors are absolutely great. You chose well today to stand by your picture, which is Venice, obviously.
Yes. Foggy Venice.
Foggy Venice.
Foggy Venice, yes.
Okay, it is really very beautiful. You get, if you've been to Venice at all, I'm sure
I have.
anyone could relate. So yes, you have been to Venice.
I have.
Did you take this from a photograph?
From a photograph that we found in a book, and you see so many photographs of Venice, and so many paintings of Venice because it's an easier venue. I need to be as easy as I can because I'm a new painter.
Right. Okay. Do you study anywhere here in the area, or you just
Yes,
do this
I
at home?
actually go to one of the local schools. Been going there for about the 7th time. Martha's school right over on Route 1. She's got a great group of people from BallenIsles that
Who are
are
there.
there, a number of us. So,
Right.
yeah.
So let me ask you a question then. You started painting how long ago?
It's been about 5 years.
5 years. And now since you've been taking lessons, have they changed your technique at all? Or do they really let
absolutely.
you run free?
Absolutely. One of the things about art that a new person gets into, we seem to believe that we have to paint everything that we see. I mean, because art really is an illusion. It's magic. So I've learned that there's a lot of magic in shading and colors, as opposed to drawing every line. I know my wife Rhonda has seen me paint some paintings with a lot of landscapes, and when it comes to trees, I will paint every leaf and every twig. And finally, I woke up one day, and especially with this new art course that I'm taking, Myrna suggested, Steve, it's about the overall view rather than the little details. So we try to get away from the little details. This is an example of that. I know before I used to paint every little thing, and you can see now that there's a lot of shading and a lot of things that you kind of take
illusion.
away
Right.
and kind of interpret in your own
Right. Now,
manner.
anyone can see this is a balcony, am I right?
I hope so.
Yes, definitely.
You're right on there,
Right,
Rhonda.
right. And that there is a figure standing here. Is it getting ready to go on the gondola?
If you think so, that's fine.
That's fine, okay.
There is
I don't
one
think-
there, though.
There is one definitely there, okay.
Okay.
And this is a building in the background?
Yes, and we were trying to show the fog of Venice while it was rolling in. And you can see the differential in the water. It's a little foggier here and a little brighter up in front of the boats.
So I understand. I get it without seeing every distinct detail.
Well, I'm glad you get
I
it.
got it. Okay. Now, what other kinds of things have you been working on?
Well, basically, I work on oil paintings and a lot of landscapes, because when you're a new artist, you have a tendency not to try what is so difficult, and that's the portraits, a person's face. And we have a couple examples here in the show where they're absolutely outstanding.
Right.
The impersonation, the interpretation, all of that of the face is so difficult to do.
Right.
So I stick to the landscapes where you can make your mistakes, and
no one would know.
and maybe no one will know.
And no one would.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's great. And you primarily stay with smaller pieces, am I correct?
Well,
Have you done any
I've done
large?
a couple larger ones. I actually have another piece in the show that's quite small.
I saw
And,
that. And very distinct also.
And very distinct. And the reason it's so small is I didn't know how to do it bigger. And that's one of the things the class taught us, how to take a small painting and make it into a larger painting, and some interesting techniques that we use to do it.
Really? Terrific.
Yeah.
So this is a great hobby for you.
It's truly a great hobby.
Get you off of the golf course.
Yeah, finally.
That's right. And out of the restaurants and out of the stores, and gives you something that's meaningful to you.
Yeah, it's,
And have you made a collection within your home, or do you end up giving your art away, or selling it,
unfortunately, there's a collection in my home, and we're running out of space. All my friends that come in look at my paintings and say, "I didn't know you painted," and the reality is, I really am not the greatest painter in the world. I know it, and hey, that's reality. But when you
Doesn't
have
matter.
it and you paint it, you put it in your own house. I can assure you, no one's going to buy my stuff. But
You
that
never
doesn't
know.
matter.
You
It
never
doesn't
know.
matter.
And
It's
the other
fun.
solution, is we can buy a bigger house.
You probably could, and I know where you're coming from in that.
Thank you so much,
Nice to
Steve.
see you, Rhonda.
Okay. Now I'd like to introduce you to my friend Sharon Blackmon. Sharon, I want to thank you for taking the time to interview with Channel 63. Thanks so much, honey.
Our pleasure.
And I really wanted to focus on this piece today because I know Sharon, and I know that she's a new artist. When I say a new artist, I know you've taken classes at this point, but you probably have been doing this kind of thing at home, doodling or
Never.
nothing?
Never.
No attempt at all, just in
I
your
always,
head?
in my head, exactly. That's exactly where it's been for the last 60 years, in my head.
Really? So what was it that prompted you this year to take some classes and start producing?
This is something I've wanted to do most of my life. I love art, I've been attracted to art, and I just never took the time to take lessons. It's something I wanted to do, but always something else interfered with my life.
Right.
And every year I said, okay, this is the time, I'm going to do it. Never happened. However, this year, friends of mine, Susan and Larry Schell, who also belong to BallenIsles, said they have a teacher and they were going to go to private lessons at a studio. And why don't you come along and see how you feel about it? And I said, great, let me see. And right away we clicked, and I said, this is the place I want to be. They did only oil painting, and I said, okay, I'll try it. I felt insecure, I felt intimidated, I had no prior experience, but I have the love of art. And this is the production from this one class that I took.
How long has this been, how long have you been involved with this piece?
Well, we've been in lessons now 9 weeks. And
Once a week?
It took once a week. We go every Friday morning for 3 hours. This piece took me about 6 sessions. And
so you paint only in the studio?
only
You
in
take
this,
it home
I
and
have
do-
never done anything at home. I never held a paintbrush before this class. And we go every Friday morning, and I wound up creating this. I want to know how to draw. I would love to do a basic drawing class at some point. I would love to be able to be as talented as some of the art I see here in BallenIsles, and perhaps next year or the year after I will take some lessons in I don't know
Drawing,
what.
drawing, pastels, whatever.
Yes,
you go on
yes.
to different
With
media.
drawing,
Right.
I'd love to be able to do portraits.
Right,
But right
right.
now, I felt for a first composition, the best thing I could do would be a landscape.
So where did this come from? Was there a picture that you?
Yes, that's exactly the way she starts. Our instructor is Mertz, and her whole concept is to do visuals. So we have to find a picture in a magazine that we like and we're interested in. And I've always liked landscaping,
And here it is.
and this is it.
Here it is. So is this complete in your mind, or would you go back and make some changes?
It's complete for the level I'm on now.
Okay. All right, great. Colors are really extraordinary. You get quite a feel from it.
Well, that's what I learned with doing oils, that there are no mistakes. I was very intimidated initially, And some things happen by accident. As you're painting and you layer on the paint and you try to achieve different colors, it happens. And
it's great. And I really commend you. I'm sure everyone here in the show would say the same thing, to just start to take the lessons and within a few weeks create something that you felt comfortable enough to come into the show.
Well,
I mean, as you said, you're up against, not that it's a competition,
No, I know what you mean.
but you know, there's some magnificent pieces here from people who have been involved with art for God knows how many years. Good for you for following through and arriving at this point to display in the BallenIsles Art Show.
When I first started taking lessons, Rhonda, I said, okay, this will be a 5-year plan. And after 5 years, I hope I will have something that I can show in this magnificent art show. However, I was encouraged by my friends and family, why don't you just put it up? So I did, and here we are.
Well, it's terrific, terrific. And I thank you very much for doing this, and for following your dream, and for spending a few moments with us here in Channel 63.
It's always a pleasure to spend time with you, Rhonda.
Thank you. And our very next interview is with Eva Drone. And we've been watching Eva's work through the last several art shows, watching it evolve. And I have to say that the sculpture that we're standing in front of today is positively magnificent. And I've watched everyone come through the room and stop and look at the detail, which is beyond remarkable. Would you say this is your finest work as far as sculpture is concerned?
Maybe this sculpture has the most details, because I have the chair with the details, the dress, the throw, and the hair. But other sculptures has also details. For some reason, I have to do the details.
Right.
That I don't know. This is in my nature to be very precise.
So let's talk about this particular piece. Did you have an image in mind, or was this part of a class? Did you have a model?
No. Well, I did at home, and I found a picture of model. He is quite known Yugoslavian model, and I cut the picture, and then I asked somebody who lives here, Rachel. She gave me the pose. So I
thought I recognized that body.
Yes. So I have both. I have the picture, and I had Rachel.
Just incredible. I hope the camera can see all of the folds in the dress, and just the hand detail and the way she's holding. What is she holding, a letter?
A letter, probably, I don't know, maybe love letter.
What it feels like to me.
Maybe, I don't know. The
And
letter was not shown.
Right. And here she is dressed elegantly, but she's in a very casual pose.
Sexy, I would
sexy
say.
pose, exactly. So there's more than likely no one else in the room, am I correct? Just kind of lost in her thoughts?
I would think so. That's
right.
what I was trying to do. I don't know if I captured that.
You
or
absolutely
not.
did.
Thank you.
And yet it's luxurious at the same time with the throw.
The throw actually was accidental because I had too much room there, and I didn't know how to fill that space. So
okay.
I put the throw.
I see.
So as I work, I come to some ideas, you know, because that was not on the picture.
Okay. How long did this take you from start to finish? And how did you know when it was done?
That's a good question. It's very hard to know when it's finished. because I would come at night, because it's outside, and I would come at night, and I would see, oh, this doesn't look well. So I start to work. Then I come in the morning, I said, oh my God, what did I do? So I would redo it. And actually it took me practically 7 months
Really?
to finish in clay.
Okay.
Because the clay is not easy to manipulate
with.
because it's soft.
And you just were explaining to me off camera that you do this in your own home
I
in an
do.
outdoor space.
Exactly.
And so the weather, the
The-
control of the weather has a lot to do with how easy
Yes.
or how difficult it is
Right.
for you to do this.
Right. Because I started in winter last year, in January, it was freezing. And the wax was, the clay was so hard that it was very difficult to manipulate because mostly I work with hands. And then when it got warm, the clay became too soft that was sticking
Right.
to.
So the process is once you're finished with it in terms of manipulating the clay,
Yes.
what's the next step?
The next step I take to a foundry. And I never know what will come out of that. Because for some reason, they like to work on big things, and they are very nervous about detailed work. So they never assure me that it would come out the same way that I brought. And they take pictures, a lot of pictures.
So
But there's
what would
some-
you say? Does this look very much like what you had intended it to?
Very much, but not exactly.
Exactly. And how does the color emerge, the color that's in
Well,
the dress?
this is patina. Normally they do patina over there. It's called patina. And I wanted to have a bluish dress. So I did on my own, just playing around, and it came out okay.
Well, as I said from the beginning, it's absolutely amazing. The shoes are beautiful. It's a real period piece.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's
very
wonderful.
much.
And I know you do painting also.
I do painting, and I started with painting.
So this is a second venture for you.
This is, actually third, because I paint on the silk, little bit on furniture, on glass.
Right. So you're not afraid of any of it.
No, I'm not afraid. I would try anything. And actually, if I may say about my paintings, that I started to paint when I sold my business. I moved to London when I got married to Roman, and he really inspired me. He bought me a colorful set of pencils with a little poem that those pencils would inspire me.
It's wonderful. And he's
I
also an
started-
artist.
He is, but he was an artist when I met
When
him.
you first met him. Well, you're
Yeah,
quite a couple,
so-
quite a couple. Thank you so very
My
much for
pleasure.
taking the time to
My
explain your
pleasure.
work to me and to the Channel 63 audience. It's
My
It's
pleasure.
incredible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Randa, very much. It's a pleasure.
And now I'd like to introduce you to my friend Tanya Witzel. And Tanya, thank you so much for taking some time out of a very busy day.
You're welcome.
I understand you were at the Norton earlier
Yes,
today for a
yes.
lecture. And you're very involved in the art world.
Oh,
I know that.
absolutely, yes.
Besides these pieces that you so very generously come and display here, art is really your life.
Yeah, I have been art teacher for 18 years, and of course I went to art school. Went to the University of Illinois, and then
And majored in art.
And majored in art and art education and the fine arts. And then I went to graduate work at Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago and the Art Institute of Chicago.
No wonder your work is so fascinating. Obviously, you've got the background, the education, and the talent on top of it, so great
Thank you.
mix. Now, I've been in your home many times and been fascinated by your pieces, mainly because they are very structured. And I've always wondered what it was that led you in that direction and how it is that you plan out a piece like this. It obviously is planned.
Absolutely.
Or wouldn't look quite like this.
Right.
So tell us how this all begins.
Well, I think I'm very structured because I did a lot of graduate work at the Illinois Institute of Technology, which is a very structured kind of school.
Perfect.
And then after I graduated, of course, I taught school for many years, and through travel through Europe and so forth, I've always loved architecture and nature. Okay. So some of my pieces after this series became really more of architecture and nature, but this is really a study in color. And
How many different colors are there here?
this piece has 48 colors.
Really? 48 different
48
colors?
different. Now what happens is I start with graph paper, and I make, you know, the amount of squares that I'm going to be working with. It is a repetition of 4 colors. If you look at, say, this box, I start with, well, actually, this would be a better thing. I start with 4 colors, and there are 12 variations from
Gets
light
lighter
to
and
dark,
darker, right.
of the blue, of the green, of the orange, of the pinky magenta.
Right.
So, and each square repeats the 4 colors, but in different values.
I see.
And I plan it all on graph paper first.
Right.
And I have to number, you know, what the value is, because
So
it's
it's
12
very
values.
mathematical.
It's a very, yes. In fact, I almost became a math teacher. I loved math. So you can also see math in my work.
Right. Now, I'm looking at it now, and I've passed it and seen it several times.
Right.
This is the first time that I'm seeing that there are corners in it where some of the colors are almost eliminated or darkened so that they're not recognizable as like an orange.
That's because I either add white to get it a lighter value,
Right.
or I'm adding the black slowly to get the
darken.
darker values of the color.
And how long did this piece take you?
Very long, from start to finish. I honestly can't even tell you.
Weeks?
But several months.
Months?
Yes, because just to mix the colors
Right.
take a long time to get the right value that I want, and just working on graph paper, because I plan it so that you've got the lights in certain areas and the darks in certain areas, so that you get a dimensional feeling to it.
Well,
So
that you
it's
did.
a lot of planning. And I have to say, I don't do this too much anymore.
Right. I see that you've started to change your style.
Yes, I did.
And your thought process. And
Yes.
where are you going now?
Okay, well now, of course, as I said before, I did a lot of architecture and nature, so I brought in more greenery and flowers. And I don't have the paintings here from that series, but it was very three-dimensional. Like you could walk right into the painting through
Right.
corridors.
Like a tunnel or corridor. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And I slowly got more freer and more freer with my work, and then now I'm sort of eliminating the architecture and doing more of flowers. And I was really at an exhibit at the Fairchild Gardens about 2 years ago, and there was a wonderful exhibition of Chihuly, the glass that he does.
We all love.
I mean, of course I fell in love. I wanted every single one, but who can afford it? And my brain just caught that. And so now I'm really doing a series, and the other one is in the show.
Right.
Of takeoff of Chihuly
pieces.
And I just love the colors, the transparencies, the shapes, And so I'm doing that now.
Right.
I don't know where that's going to lead me, but right now this is, what I'm doing.
You're doing well. It's growth in an artist.
Yes.
And it's wonderful that you shared both style pieces with us here today. And it just means that your talent is going to blossom, if we use the flowers, for
Right.
God knows how long. And
Right.
we love seeing it. And thank you
And I
very, very
love
much.
being in the show.
Good.
And thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
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 And here we have everybody's friend, Buddy Josephs. Buddy, thank you so very much for taking the time to explain your artwork to Channel 63 and its audience. And so I'm looking at it, Buddy, and I play enough golf to know that it's a sand trap. And there's a ball stuck in the sand trap. And now I need you to tell me, what was the inspiration for this?
Well, let me first say the ball is not stuck in the sand trap, it's embedded.
It's embedded.
And that's a comment on life. And I have been trying to, these are installations. I'm not an artist and I don't compare with these others, but I've been trying to comment on life. And 3 years ago, I had an installation which consisted of a plunger and a bottle of Drano, and it was entitled Old Age.
I remember that one.
And last year, I had a life number 1, and it was a tennis ball stuck on a net and refusing to go over. Mm-hmm. And this one, of course, is a commentary on life too. It's a golf ball embedded in the sand, and indicating the vicissitudes of life.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyone who's a golfer knows that that's a difficult position to be in. Mm-hmm. And all different kinds of ways to get yourself out of that, right?
Yes.
Including just picking it up and throwing it out of the trap.
No, I don't do that.
You don't do that, no.
I have someone else pick it up for me and throw it out.
Out of the
But
trap.
I've got to tell you, Rhonda, I was influenced by Robert Rauschenberg, who died a little under 3 years ago. Roma and I saw an exhibit of his in the Demental Museum in Houston. Mm-hmm. And Robert Rauschenberg used all sorts of detritus and refuse that he picked up on the street and called it art. He used old umbrellas and pieces of tin cans and cardboard, and he called it art. Mm-hmm. And at the Demental Museum, we saw a chair, and that was art by Rauschenberg, mm-hmm. and a hydrant sitting there, and that was art. And
so you figured if he could do it,
if he could do it, I can do it.
And, definitely.
And I'm not an artist, but of course he was.
But it's just involved with the way you see life.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. There have been a few couples that we have interviewed for the purpose of the art show, and you're one of them, where it's both husband and wife are displaying and have a great love of the world of art. Rome has been doing it for quite some time. Is this something relatively new for you?
Oh, very new for me. I have a great love, as you say, but no talent. But this is, and I wanted to introduce a little levity too into this beautiful setting that we're in.
And you did. But half of art, as I know it, is what starts in the imagination, having nothing to do with the dexterity of making your hand complete what started in your mind. So this might have been relatively easy for you to do as far as position is concerned, but you had to think about it, and that's an artistic talent.
Well, thank you, but I'm thinking about next year and how I can portray aching joints, for example. Uh-huh. It's not easy.
It's not easy, but better you should come up with something that helps the aching joints.
Yeah.
That would be even more appreciated.
I would like that.
Too. Okay, so you've got something else in mind, and where will this go after the art show? Does this come back into your house?
Not exactly. I'm not going to hang it. It will go back in the sand trap where it came from.
I see. Okay. Great, great. Well, thank you very, very much, Buddy. It's been a pleasure. And you're right, it is a bit of levity compared to all of this delightful but serious art.
Yeah.
And you're a gem as usual.
Thank you for interviewing me.
My pleasure. Now I'd like you to meet Stanley Bellows. Stanley's one of everybody's favorites, and Stanley has a wife who's just as involved in the art world as he is. They are just a very artistic couple. And it's my pleasure this time to introduce you to Stanley and talk about a particular piece he has on display here. And Stanley?
Yes.
The floor is yours. What would you like to tell us about this piece?
That piece is called Miss Sepia, and it's from sepia is a color, and all these colors are from one paint tube, and as you put water in them, in watercolor, these lighten up. So these are all from one tube, but they're different shades.
That's amazing. The uneducated eye would think that you used several different tones in order to create it, but one did it.
Just one did it.
One did it. And I understand that you used a model for this.
I did. I signed up. My winter or summer place is in Cleveland, Ohio, and I signed up for a modeling class. It was my first time, and it's kind of like a new world for me.
Right.
And what I did, I sketched from the model, the live model, I sketched this. And when I got home, I did it, I started my painting. I just did the sketching from the model.
From the model. Was this done in one day?
No.
A period of time?
Yeah, because in watercolor, you want every brush stroke to dry before you get next to it, because if you get next to it, it's going to run.
Right.
So it's...
but the original sketching of the model was done in one sitting?
Oh, yes, in one sitting.
Okay.
It was an hour-and-a-half class, and it was fun.
It was fun.
I enjoyed that.
I really am enamored by the way you've done the hands. I've always been told that artists, true artists, better artists, are recognizable because they really do a good job with hands.
That's true.
And that they're very difficult to do.
Like the hardest thing to do. Yeah.
Right. Well, you definitely accomplished that. And just the slope of her back. Was she naked?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. The slope of her back and the positioning of her head, it's all very interesting and a piece that we can all kind of relate to.
Yeah. And if we want to talk about this, the shading is so important. Like, this is all white. This is not painted, actually.
Right.
That's just the white of the canvas or the paper. And
oh, I see. So it's what it's showing here is the opposite of paint. It's it's without.
It's without.
It's without.
And that is in watercolor, the brightest is the paper itself. So if you want the brightest white, you don't touch it.
You don't touch it.
That's what you
leave.
leave.
The background. Very good.
And these are the shadows that as I saw them.
Right. Now, did you choose the framing for this? Because I think it goes particularly well.
My wife actually.
Brenda did that?
She helped me with it. She's got a very good eye.
Yes. Well,
And
keeping
in fact,
it all within the bronze and brown tones,
yes,
brown and white,
yeah,
I think is really what makes this painting stand out as much as it does. How long have you been painting?
I've been painting, I guess, about close to 10 years.
Really?
And I actually got into painting through Brenda, my wife. She was taking a class somewhere, and she asked me if I wanted to join and just go with her.
Really?
And I did, and I liked it. And the instructor said, you can paint, but you need a background. He says what you have to do is take a drawing class. And I took a drawing class at our community college in Cleveland, and if anyone wants to paint, that's where they
That's
should
the
start.
direction. Right.
Drawing is the key to any good picture. And I took a regular class. It was for seniors. It wasn't for seniors. It was the whole
community.
it was the regular school. But it was fun, even just going and being with young people. And so.
Did you know as a child growing up that you had an affinity for any of this?
No, not really.
This has all come out later.
It came out. My mother painted too, and she was pretty good. And so it kind of gave me a background that I saw. And as I retired, I started. I never painted till then.
And then Brenda gave you the inspiration.
She gave me the inspiration, and so that was, I thank her for that start. And then we ended up, what was the best thing for us, we were lucky, we got a retired school teacher, and he became he taught us both. And he would come every week, and we would paint. And you know, when you have a teacher coming, you're going to sit down and have something to do because you're paying for this.
That's right.
And so that's what really put me over the top. And I started painting. I was painting like finishing two, 3 pictures a month at that time.
It's very ambitious.
Very ambitious, but you need a stimulus. And the teacher, I don't know if you noticed this, but the teacher strived for me to get a free hand. That's what they always want. The teachers try to do that for you, that you're not like getting like, you want this actually perfect line, and that's not what painting's about. If you want that, you can take a photograph.
Right.
And so in painting, you're expressing yourself, and that's what I tried to do on this one.
Well, you did, and we've heard that from other artists here today, that their teachers try to get them out of the mode of duplication and more in the mode of the emotion behind the painting.
Right.
And that's what it looks like you've done.
And that's the key. And it's so hard to do because you're putting all this time in, and maybe this one line or this one color you put in would really make the painting stand outstanding. But you're afraid because you're afraid you're going to ruin all these hours of work you already have. But
you definitely didn't do that here. You just
have
complimented.
Thank you. You have to risk when you're painting.
Like any form of art, it's a risk.
Exactly, yes.
Exactly. Stanley, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful work, and always wonderful to spend time together.
Thank you.
Well, believe it or not, we've just come to the end of another successful BallenIsles art show. Isn't it amazing what kind of membership we have to produce this kind of artwork? And not only do we have this kind of artistic membership, but we've got the rest of us who come out and really support and enjoy each other's work. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and the team at Channel 63. Thank you so very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.